So hi everyone, this is Alex Sangha. I am the producer of the upcoming short documentary film Emergence Out of the Shadows. And I'm sitting here with my director, Vinay Giridhar. What has been the biggest sort of challenge for you so far?
Biggest challenge so far is to not cry on the set. just it's so inspirational to hear from the parents who are so strong and so unconditionally loving their children. Like it's amazing to hear from them, and just to learn about how they dealt with whatever their child was going through. It's an amazing experience.
What message do you really want to try to convey to the audience?
There is a social cultural context to this film. It's impactful because a lot of people are just struggling quietly and secretly. These are the parents who are inspiring others to embrace their child as they are and love them as they are. If you're not from the South Asian community, you learn something about the social South Asian community and their cultural beliefs.
And you know, I'm Vinay, like one thing I really love about Emergence is that not only can it save lives, you know, there's a broader message here. Thank you so much, Vinay, and and thank you for being here, and look out for Emergence coming soon. So first of all, I was really blown away by Angela's speech, and she asked, think about what you love, and I just want to say, my mom is here, and I love my mom, and she's in my film. So she's right there, everyone. And I'm going to say something, but actually, I'm not going to say it because this is my mom's story, so I'm not going to say it. But you'll find out about my mom's story in my film. So that's going to be interesting, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the film.
Okay, so this film, Emergence Out of the Shadows, I felt I had to make this film because it's a very real film, it's a very true film, it's a very authentic film, it's a very heart-wrenching film. There was a young man who was 19 years old. He was from Ludhiana, Punjab in India, which is a large city about the size of Surrey. And he was a computer science student at Langara College in Vancouver. He was an international student on a study permit. He messaged Share Vancouver, which is a nonprofit that I have founded for queer South Asians and their friends. Everyone is welcome. And he said, I've been homeless for 10 days. I have had nothing to eat. I'm hungry. My parents found out that I was gay, and I was living with my cousins in Surrey, and they disowned me. They kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. I don't know what to do. I'm an international student. I have no money to pay my international student fees. I have no status in this country. I'm going to be deported. I don't know what to do. I said, this must be a joke. This can't be happening in Canada. How could this possibly be happening? So me and my ex-boyfriend went to go meet him at Boston Pizza. He had this foul smell. His eyes were shaking, his body was shaking, he was so skinny, his hygiene was very poor. And he would just tear up and just start crying. And there was no life in him. I almost felt like I was talking to someone who was a dead person, but was still actually saying words. And really, the story follows this person. This young man's name is Caden. The story, Emergence, talks about how he emerged from this. He was literally drowning, and we pulled him from the water. The story talks about what happened to Caden. Where is he now? Where is he out now? I'm not going to tell you that, obviously what happens, but that's the beginning of the story. And then we fleshed out the story by interviewing other gay and lesbian South Asians. But what makes Emergence unique is we interview parents, Punjabi Sikh parents, South Asian parents, and we get their perspective on the culture, on the traditions, on the religion, on why they believe the values that they have. Not everyone is the same. I'm blessed to have a wonderful mother who accepts me for being gay, and she's always loved me. But in our community, in our society, it doesn't matter how much people talk about equality and dignity and respect, sometimes the culture and the traditions can make life very difficult for a young man to come out and be who he is. So this is what the Emergence is about, and we want the parents and the gay and lesbian kids to emerge together to a new level of thinking. And that's where we came up with the title for the film. And we created the film to save lives and to educate our community and the broader community. And that's Emergence.
Can you say a little something about the kind of the unique challenges and stressors for the South Asian community when it comes to coming out as gay or lesbian or transgendered?
Well, I am 47 years old, and my dad still says, "Do you want to get married? I know someone I can get you arranged." He's like, my dad always, when I was 30, my dad came back into my life when I was 30. My parents are separated and divorced, and I was raised by my mother. And my dad says, "I love you as a son, but I don't approve of your lifestyle."
Lifestyle.
He calls it a lifestyle, as if I would choose to live a life of oppression and discrimination and exclusion and discrimination. And I say, "Dad, did you choose to be heterosexual? Did you choose to be straight?" And he's like, "But yeah, if you were just to marry a woman, then you could be straight." Right? And then I said to him, "Okay, well, why don't you marry a guy and then you can be gay?" Right? So, there's a lot of education that needs to happen in our community. A lot of people are alienated, they're isolated, they're lonely, they're depressed. And one thing that Share Vancouver tries to do is provide safe spaces, social supports. We also have a counseling program within Share Vancouver, free counseling. We have a contract, and they donate us 100 sessions a year for people in distress. And, I just feel it's important. The most important thing is that our youth and young people who are so vulnerable don't feel alone. It's so important to make those connections. So the one thing you can do is be a friend and be there to support someone so they're not alone.
So if you had a message that you could share, Alex, with all the families, all the people, all the families who may be watching, who might watch your film, what might be your message to them? It's amazing that we're talking about love today Valentine's Day is coming up, we're talking about love. Because in the film, when we were filming Caden, so much pain that he went through, he would call his mother on the phone and she would just hang up. And it would just tear me apart inside that he was suffering so much. And even when he got to a stage in his life, and I've known him for 3-4 years now, where he's doing well and everything is great, and you would think he's feeling good, the damage and that grief and trauma and the loss has done to his self-esteem, his self-confidence, his self-identity, trying to fit in again, trying to find a family, trying to find a support network. And I told Keaton, I said, when you're gay in this world, sometimes your friends are your family. And sometimes you have to rebuild your family. And we are here for you, and we are your friends, and we are your family, and we are together. And, it is so important. My message is, and as I said earlier, is not just about being a friend, it's about being a real friend and being there for someone who really needs your help because they are vulnerable. And you may be that last little barrier in their mind to save them. So we're talking today about Emergence, but there's also another film, right, that you released, and that's My Name is January. My Name was January.
My Name was January, yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that and the inspiration behind that film.
So, when Angela was talking about violence against women, I couldn't help thinking about my first film. January Marie Lapuz was a transgender Filipino woman. She was the social coordinator of Share Vancouver. In September 2012, she was brutally murdered, tragically murdered. She was stabbed 18 times in her own home, including in the neck. All of a sudden, I wake up and I have 35 messages from internationally, Metro Vancouver, all over Metro Vancouver media, Canadian media, international media, CBC News, BBC News, all the news throughout the States are calling me, and the reporters have the same questions.
Wasn't she involved in a high-risk lifestyle? Wasn't she a sex worker? Wasn't she, it was almost as they were blaming her for being a victim of a crime and being stabbed and murdered. And it was so frustrating, and I stopped answering in my phone call. I just unplugged the phone. I just stopped answering any interviews. And her mother was devastated because then they started calling her mother to get interviews. You can imagine what she was going through. So My Name Was January tells the true story of what January meant to us. She was engaged in survival sex work, yes, but that was her own private work and her business. To us, she was the social coordinator. She was the social glue of our organization. She was loved by the group. She helped many transgender women through their gender transition. She was so loved to the point that when she passed away, our group literally shut down for 2 years. We went into grieving for 2 years because she knew everything. She did everything. She was the networker. She was bringing people together. She resolved conflicts. And we wanted to share her real story. So My Name Was January is a tribute. It's a eulogy. It's a celebration of January's life. But it also provides a platform and a voice for other trans women of color to share their challenges, their strengths, and their struggles. And My Name Was January, I wasn't even expecting to release it to the film festivals, but someone said, why don't you send it? So we released it in September 2018. And 1 year later, it screened in 11 countries. It got selected at 58 film festivals around the world. It won 13 international awards. And for 2020, we entered the Canadian Screen Awards, which is like the Canadian Oscars. We got accepted into enough accredited film festivals to enter the Canadian Screen Awards in Toronto for Best Short Documentary. We hired journalism students from Kwantlen Polytechnic University, 2 women of color, to make My Name Was January. And yeah, it was students. It wasn't technically the greatest Oscar production, but the story was powerful, and that's what people walked away with. It was the story. And what happened was the film even screened, believe it or not, at film festivals in Sochi, St. Petersburg, and Moscow in Russia. And I don't know if you guys know what is happening in Russia, but the gay and lesbian community and the transgender, bisexual community is at risk. They are oppressed, they are discriminated against, and they are at risk of violence. So the fact that this transgender film screened in those 3 major cities at film festivals shows you that there may be some resistance within the artistic community, and that the community there is trying to have a voice and get their message across. And but I feel that January is making it all happen from heaven. I feel she's shining a light down on us. She wants her story told, and that was the purpose and intention behind the film.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So much richer. I've actually just, I was telling you before that I've ordered it and I'm about to watch it, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
You said it's available, right, at the public library?
You can get it from Surrey City Central Library. You can get it from New Westminster Library. You can order it from Moving Images Distribution, which is an educational DVD or Blu-ray, or you can watch it for free. Go to the Share Vancouver Wikipedia page and scroll down to the bottom where it says external links, and I put it on there, full documentary, and anyone can watch it.
Thank you.
So it's only 26 minutes. It's only 26 minutes, so you have no excuse, right? For January, do it for January.
So you mentioned a little bit earlier some of your advice about be a friend. What would you advise family members or friends of people who are part of the LGBTQ community who are struggling with coming out or who are finding those barriers? What would you advise for the people who want to support them?
It took me many, many years to accept myself as a gay brown male. I had to deal with internalized homophobia. I didn't want to be gay. I didn't want to be labeled as queer or homosexual. Even the thought of gay sex kind of made me feel sick for a long time until I met a Hawkeye. So it's like you're dealing with internalized homophobia. It takes you many years to accept yourself. You cannot expect your parents to all of a sudden you just say, "Oh, hi, mom, hi, dad, I'm gay," and they're going to say, "Oh, yay, let's join the gay parade." I mean, it's not going to be that easy, right? For a lot of South Asian parents, Sikh parents, Punjabi parents, and they're kind of like, they have expectations. They want you to get married to a beautiful wife. They want you to be a lawyer. They want you to be a doctor. They want you to have children, preferably a boy. They want you to, which I don't agree with, speaking of gender equality and all that, it's horrible that some of the traditions and cultural values we have in our community, but they exist. Why lie about it? And so they have these built-in expectations, and they're really big on collectivity and not shaming the community, and it's only really kind of a Western idea where people have like individual rights and you can turn 19 and move out and get your own place. Right? It's like in my community, sometimes the children live with their parents and they never move out, and then they get married and then the wife moves in too. So it's like everyone's big together. We're all just living in one big family. And so for me, I think it takes time. You have to give your parents time, and they need education. Mm-hmm. So just like you gave yourself time, you have to give them some time as well. And I also tell young kids who come to me and they're so excited, they want to go to the Pride Parade and they want to tell everyone they're gay. And I say, you know what? This is what happened to Caden, right? I always tell them, I say, when you finished your school, when you have a job, when you're independent, when you're established, when you're not at risk of being on the streets, when you're not at risk of being exploited, when you're not at risk of basically starving to death and you have a shelter, that's an option. That's a choice at that time. You have to weigh the pros and cons, right? And usually, if you give it some time, your parents kind of figure things out slowly as you go along, as you're getting older. Because, I went to England one time to see my grandfather. And about 2 months later, my mom came to visit, and my grandfather said, your son, Alex, is such a great kid. Not one woman came over to visit him. I said, okay, maybe it comes, and soon after that, my mom asked me, she goes, are you gay? I was so embarrassed. I said, no, I'm bisexual. I lied about that. I'm not bisexual. I just felt it would be easier for my mom to absorb the news. Like, she figured it out herself, right? But I just said, no, I'm bisexual, because I wanted to give her still some hope that I could have a child or have a wife, right? And the funny thing is now, I'm not going to give away the film, but Caden calls me Papa Cher, kind of like I'm like a father to him, and my mom considers him like a grandson. And so, and some of my best friends is a lesbian couple. She's an interracial couple. They're also in the film, and they have a baby. And so one thing you learn in Emergence, and I'm not going to give it totally away what happens, but one thing you learn is that just because you're gay or lesbian doesn't mean you can't have a family. Right? Not only can you create your own family of people who love you, you can also have children, and they can come into your life in many different ways. And it doesn't really matter if they're your biological children or not. What matters is we are all God's children. We all have red blood. We all have a spirit within us. We're all connected. And if a human being is a human being, you can love and care. You can love anyone, really, if they need your help. And this is what I've learned as I've been growing up, and I've become more of a daddy, I guess. What was the next question?
The next question. So I found it really interesting when we were talking about the name, Cher Vancouver. It's spelled S-H-E-R. Can you tell us a little bit about where that comes from?
So Sher means lion in Persian and many South Asian languages, including Hindi, Punjabi, and many South Asian languages. And Sher means courage, pride, bravery, strength. I feel these are all attributes that people who are from a visible minority and people of color and brown, that they need to come out of the closet. However, Share Vancouver used to be a queer Sikh group. And Singh, which many Sikhs use as a middle name or a last name, means lion. And Kaur means princess or lioness, the equivalent. And so that was one of the reasons we had it when it was initially a queer Sikh group. But then over time, we changed it to a queer South Asian and friends group, so we welcome everyone. We removed the religious connotation to our group because we really didn't want to get into battles with, the Sikh temples and everyone. And actually, when I founded Share Vancouver, the leader of the Sikh temple said publicly in the newspaper, there's no such thing as gay Sikhs. He publicly said that in the newspaper, and then I felt like, okay, well, so it's like, and then you know what the funny thing is? The funny thing is, about 7-8 years later, a board member from the same Sikh temple said, Alex, you know what? We may not agree on everything, but I want to work with your organization to deal with HIV, STDs, with depression, with mental health, with suicidal ideation. Can you help us reach that? We don't want to have any more deaths in our community or any more. And they agreed. Bullying, racism, sexism, all that is an issue that we all need to address collectively as a community. I said, really? This is amazing. The fact that they took me and my organization legitimately and seriously enough to invite me, to include me, really made me feel like, wow, maybe something is happening and, all our efforts are paying off. And one more thing happened that really nailed it for me. It was the outreach coordinator of the Khalsa Dewan Society, which is a Sikh temple on Ross Street Sikh Temple in Vancouver. He called me, he said, we want to invite Share Vancouver to the Vancouver Vaisakhi Parade. That was 4 years ago. There was controversy on the board, but it was too late. They already invited me. So we showed up, 20 of us with Share Vancouver t-shirts. We marched in the Vancouver Vaisakhi Parade. This went to the Hindustan Times, the Times of India in New Delhi and Mumbai. It went to CBC News, went to all the local press. Apparently, we were the first queer South Asian group in the world to ever march in a Vaisakhi Parade.
Wow.
Right? So times can change. Times can change, and it's all happening. You can, one foot in front of the other, you can bring about change slowly and gradually. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes 10 years. But just like for violence against women or gay rights or equal rights for, bullying or, helping people who are victims of bullying, all of this, if you can change social attitudes and you can educate people and you can inform people and stand up for people who are being victimized, then, that is one step further to getting you along that path. I had a counselor. I am a counselor and I see a counselor. So he said to me that when you have a crisis, there's two things that can happen. You can go down the path of danger, you can walk the path of danger, and you may not even realize you're walking down the path of danger until you consciously sit and evaluate it. Or what you can do if there's a crisis, you can walk down the path of opportunity. So sometimes when people come to me with a problem, I evaluate it in that perspective, and I ask them, what do you think is the path of opportunity for you? What can we do to get you down the path of opportunity, and how can you walk that path? And this is kind of what we did with Caden, and I'm very happy, and I really hope you guys all come to watch the film.
Is there like a screening that's coming up?
Yeah, the film will be released in December 2020. Out TV is going to broadcast it first. They have bought the rights. And it'll be in the film festival circuit, and hopefully local film festivals will screen it. If not, we will have a special screening at City Central Library or at Kwantlen College or at Douglas or SFU Surrey. We will have local screenings just like we did with our first film. And I'm really proud of the work that our director did with this film, and I'm so glad to give a voice to people who don't often get heard. These are people of color. These are brown people. These are gay people. These are lesbians. These are the parents of queer people. I mean, how many films do you get to watch that has this, our voices represented? You know, and I'm so grateful that I'm part of that community and that I live in a country which allows me the freedom to make a film like this. Because you know what? There's a lot of countries in this world. There's like 80, 90 countries in this world where if I'm openly gay, I would be executed, I would be stoned to death, I'd be thrown off a building, or I'd be thrown in jail. But in Canada, we have rights, and we need to make sure that we keep these rights.
Yeah. So final question.
Okay.
If there's one nugget that you want our audience to take home today, one thing you want them to remember about your message, about your film, what would it be?
Yeah.
Just like one.
So one thing, treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
This is what, this is what Jesus said. I mean, this is what it says in the Bible. I think that's what Jesus said. But this is the same, this is the same thing that all the religions say. If you can just treat people how you want to be treated, the world will just function fine. Yeah, we're all human beings. We all have a spirit. We all need to nurture that spirit. We all need to love each other.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.